Hi, and welcome to your show, Your Health is Wealth, with Dr. Dalal Akoury. As always, we bring to you the best of the best. And my name is Dalal Akoury, as everyone knows now. And I'm a traditional medical physician who transitioned into healing and into natural integrative medicine. Here in Myrtle Beach, we're practicing the medicine of tomorrow, today, and that is just for you. My office is located on 4710 Oleander Drive. My office number is 843-213-1480. You can reach us anytime by phone, through the emails, which is consultant@awaremed.com. You can visit my website, awaremed.com. You can tweet, Facebook, anything that can reach us is going to be amazing. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject that is very dear to my heart, and that is addiction. Addiction is really reaching an epidemic in the United States, and I decided that I'm going to make it so much easier for you by showing you a slight presentation that would help you understand how addiction happens and what causes addiction and where does it begin and when does it begin, and how can I really help you through that process of understanding what can you do at home today so that you do not begin the addiction journey. It's much easier not to get into the journey than to really stumble into the journey. Once you're in addiction, it costs a whole lot more to recover and a lot of destruction. Unfortunately, most of the crimes that are happening, and the crime rate has gone up so much higher than ever before, is because of addiction. Whether it's addiction to drugs, addiction to food, addiction to non-prescribed medication, prescribed medications, addiction to sex. So any form of addiction is causing a lot of harm to everyone here. And we are offering here in the Myrtle Beach area and in the nation a natural integrative addiction program. And in order for you to understand the addiction program, I wanted to teach you about how not to get addicted in the first place, and how, if you are addicted or if anybody knows that a friend is addicted, what can they do? What resources do they have? And how can they really address that thing? So addiction is really the focus of today's show. And remember, addiction is more common than you even think. And pain leads to addiction in most cases. Why? Because a lot of people start the addiction journey because of pain. They start having pain, and they start going to the doctors, and they start going to the emergency room, and then they get pain medication, and that's really the fastest, rampant situation that causes addiction in the U.S. right now, is the prescribed medications. So we have to understand how to stop this process, and if we have pain, how to stop the pain before it becomes a vicious, destructive system. So the vicious circle that you run into when you become addict, it's a massive problem. So right now, I want to share with you some of my slide presentations. And before we get into that, I want to remind you again that you can reach me at AwareMed Health and Wellness Resource Center. My office is located on 4710 Oleander Drive. You can reach me at home through my email or through Facebook or through Twitter, and I will answer all your questions about addiction. So I'll see you later after the break when we're going to discuss the addiction and how we can stop it together here in Myrtle Beach at AwareMed Health and Wellness Resource Center with Dr. Dalal Akoury, and your health is always going to be wealth.
AwareMed provides a variety of all-natural medicines and cleaners, such as Emerald Serenity Soap. Emerald Serenity Soap works wonders and is a whole mixture of natural propriety minerals and organic ingredients. made to replace all other chemical cleaners and disinfect your home. Max Relief Enzyme Cream soothes the body and the life force. It contains a blend of anti-inflammatory herbs and enzymes with powerful instantaneous relief. GABA Ease is an immediate stress reliever. Its aim is to promote a calm, relaxed, well-balanced emotional and biological state.
Hi, and welcome back to your show, Your Health is Wealth, with Dr. Dalal Akoury. Well, I'm very excited to talk to you again about the addiction program that we offer here in the Myrtle Beach area. It's about neuroendocrine restoration, restoring body, mind, and spirit. And we are very excited also that we're going to introduce to you again via Skype a wonderful guest, and it's Jillian. And Jillian will help us with our addiction program. We're offering this program here, and we will talk. Jillian, how a pleasure to have you here. Introduce yourself and let us know what we're going to help together. So tell me what's your take about addiction.
Well, the first thing I was thinking about when I listened to your introduction was I want people to understand it's a slippery slope. It doesn't stay on a plateau. When you're in an addiction, it keeps going down, 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 and down. And I think that's where intervention is a must. If you want a healthful life, you have to seek out professionals like yourself that have a good program to get them started on a wellness program.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you so much, Jillian. But what you were saying is, I'm going to echo that. Prevention is better than cure. And addiction begins way earlier than most people know. And we have decided on a newer platform that Jillian and I were going to experiment with to help you understand the process. So we're having a slideshow that we're going to go over, and we're going to make it as easy and simple for you. So here we're going to present the first show. I want you to look behind the slide. You have a heart that is beating. I want you to start connecting with your heart, because that's where everything begins. It's soul and heart. Focus on your heart, and you're going to be able to get through this in a much better way. But you got to know yourself first, and start loving you. But no matter what your addiction is, I'm going to be able to help you at home to get better. So first of all, we're going to talk about how to prevent addiction. And I wanted this particular slide, and I really am sure that Jillian will agree with me as soon as we get her in, that addiction really begins during your development in utero. If you focus on the first slide, most of the addiction behavior begin from the womb. So if the parents are addicts, that would turn on genes in children to make them prone to become more addicts. So I want you to realize, whatever you do to yourself, you do to your own unborn babies. So please realize that addiction begins at a very early age. Second, it progresses to childhood. And 1.5% of children begin to experiment with drugs at a very young age because they have access to them. There's parents at home who have drugs all over the place because they have prescribed medication at home. So remember, it begins at home. Be careful. Take care of your medication. Keep them away. Second, the majority of the addiction really begins here in the adolescent part, when the brain is very immature, and the stress and the environmental exposure that the children are exposed to make them prone to experiment. So remember, most of the addiction begins early on. What do you think, Miss Jillian?
I agree with that completely. And I want to pick up on something you said about adolescence. When we're young and really before adolescence, we kind of just work with our soul thoughts. You know, if we have a feeling that comes to us, we just kind of act on it. At that particular time, it just so happens that our intellectual brain starts kicking in and takes away that soul voice. So it's very important what you're talking about.
I really appreciate that. But there is one thing that is very important to me right now. And I know that Jillian was going to elaborate on this. But all the addictions begin with sugar. I know you will not believe me. But sugar is a stimulant and is a depressant. Stimulant, like dopamine. It is a stimulant like cocaine. It's a stimulant like meth. It's a stimulant like most of ADHD medications. But also it's a depressant. It's a depressant like alcohol. So if you eat sugar early on, and you can see the sugar, this is your sugar. Look at it. And look at the cocaine. They look exactly alike. So if you start your babies early on candy and sugar, guess what? You're turning on the genes for addiction because it's part of the gratification system. What do you think, Ms. Jillian?
I was just thinking about what you just said. Let me ask you a question about that then, doctor.
Yeah.
So are you saying that all the sugar drinks and everything that we start as young children and you know, as they grow, that kicks in around that time? Or is that what you're saying, that it acts in the body just like another addiction is sugar? Is that the combination you're talking about?
Absolutely. Sugar is a stimulant. And cocaine was used as medicine in the past. And Coca-Cola starts from there. It's a tree, but it was used in the wrong format. And sugar really works on the same receptors in the brain to turn on the same receptors for dopamine that are part of the rewarding system. That's why children, after they eat sugar, they get excited. But it's followed by immediate depression. They get kind of, and that's what happens. They get excited and then they drop. And that is a big thing because it works on the reward system. Another thing, if you look at addiction of sugar and meth, and look at the color, they're both white. Not only that, but the effect on parts of the body are exact. If you look at the teeth on the sugar part, that's what rotten teeth are. It's from sugar. Look at it. Also, I want you to look at the meth part. Most people with meth, they have problem with addiction, and they have rotten teeth. Look at this picture and see the evolution. People just before they begin on meth, how they look. And look 10 years later, how they look. Look at this beautiful woman. And look at, is that the same? It's not the same woman. Well, how about this one? How she looks later. So it really affects you everywhere. So do you have anything you want to add about this?
Yeah, the question I have a follow-up question for you, doctor. How come nobody else out there is talking about the connection between sugar and cocaine, sugar and meth? Because we're all so focused on the end result when they become the meth addict and the cocaine. How are you able to figure out that we have to start way back at the sugar, and that's the big red light we need to look at and take care of in your practice?
Well, I really appreciate your wonderful question, but I want to tell you something. It's the addiction body, the brain, is made of 4 different parts. And we will go into this in just a moment. And here, I want to just remind you of one thing, is the cycle that is a doom cycle, and that is the cycle of stress. And we'll go back to the sugar in a minute because I will focus on that with the next slide. But I want you to focus on this with me, Jillian, and remind people about the epinephrine effect, or what we call adrenaline fatigue or adrenal fatigue, and the effect of stress on production of adrenaline, which is really a stimulant. It gets you on the go. It's like a dopamine boost. So when people are under a lot of stress, what happens to them? They become stressed, and they create more adrenaline and more cortisol, and that adds to the addiction. You want to share just a little something about stress because we only have 1 minute to finish that segment.
You know, when you're talking about stress, everyone has that intuitive voice that we talk about all the time. the further away you get from the stress thought and stress takes over, the more you don't hear that soul voice. The more it gets separated, and it's just a downward spiral with everything you're talking about.
A downward spiral. Listen, we'll get back to you after the show, and we really, truly appreciate you, Jillian. Hey, people, I wanted to make this the most enjoyable thing for you, and I hope you're learning a lot from us here. And we'll have more and more of these shows just for you.
AwareMed Addiction Recovery offers a rapid, affordable, and safe neuroendocrine restoration for effective detox from any addiction by restoring the circuit-missing elements and links in brain recovery. Our addiction recovery platform is an effective alternative for business professionals seeking a sure, effective, and discreet addiction recovery program. Contact AwareMed today at 843-213-1480 or visit us at 4710 Oleander Drive, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Welcome back to your show, Your Health is Wealth with Dalal Akoury. Listen, what are the environmental factors that you think that are really causing addiction and contributing to addiction? Guess what? Number one is stress. And what is also a number two is the environmental exposure to sexual abuse and to violence, and to have access at home and to see parents do the same thing. So really, most of us have to focus on one thing. And if I want to tell you focus on one thing mostly, is stress and stress and stress again. Jillian, how about violence at home? And how about the accessibility of drugs at home? And if you can say that shortly, we'd be very grateful.
Well, you know, that's kind of a given, isn't it? I mean, even though we have to stress it, it still happens in our homes, and it does damage on the soul of a human being and their overall health.
Well, great. There is now the most important part that Jillian and I would discuss is the brain is made in such an amazing way. You have several parts of the brain that are involved with emotions. And I want you to focus on this. This is the motivation segment of the brain that is really driven by dopamine. This is the reward system. This is very, very important for you to be aware. That's where most of the sugar works. That's most of the dope work, but the cocaine does work. That's where methamphetamine works. But also you have an inhibitory part of the brain. It's really where alcohol does work. Most benzos work there. With also sometimes sugar works there. If sugar is used with protein, it becomes excitatory. If sugar is used with just straight sugar, it's inhibitory. It makes people sleepy and depressed and anxious. So I want you to also look at the memory part. Anything that happened to you leaves a memory, an imprint in your brain, and that's another very important part because you remember situations. If you're in a situation where somebody hurt you before, that puts you at risk to be using or the same environment. That's why part of treating people with addiction, we take them away from their environment. We help them to change their lifestyle and meet with other people. So
can I jump in
please.
here 1 minute?
Please.
And say about the brain. From a soul point of view, that is our crown chakra. Yes. Which is the essence of where we have higher purpose between ourselves and the world we live in. And if it's not functioning correctly, that's where people become hopeless, doctor. The crown chakra starts shutting down energetically just as much as the parts you're talking about in the dopamine and such.
You know, Jillian, that's why I love for both of us to work together and help a lot of people, because what we're doing is not really localized to the Myrtle Beach area or the Chicago area. What we're doing is exposing a brand new program that really makes people become aware, and they become part in the team members that help them to recover. Not only recover, but prevent addiction in the first place. So when they understand that, they get better. And really, what you have really hammered on is the touch with the soul, the touch with the chakras that are very important, the crown chakra, which people really have ignored and forgotten about. It's not all about food, it's also about your chakras, it's also about your spirituality, it's That's what religion is talking about in most places, and different religions are touching the same thing, which is spirituality. Is the vertical relationship with your creator is the most important thing. So important to have the horizontal relationship, which is through the religion, through communities. And that's why we need both. We need a spiritual relationship, and we need a horizontal support system that comes from communities, from churches, from all of us combined. So really the program we're offering is a neuroendocrine restoration through restoring spirit, mind, and body. So I really appreciate you for mentioning the soul that is missed and the crown chakra that is missed. So now, again, the same diagram, it just helps us to see how things connect and how this is the dopamine pathway. I want you to remember that the dopamine pathway is focused on the reward system, and it's used for stimulant. You want to live happy, and that's why you seek to the reward system. So anything thrilling is also an addiction. Why? Because it works on the thrilling pathways, which is the dopamine pathway. Caffeine works on the same pathway. So if you start now becoming aware, you're going to learn how to use food to help you restore this. So I want to just go through this very quickly so that you can see how it all works together. So there is constant communication between centers of the brain. There is receptors. There is a conversation that is happening constantly between the inhibitory pathway, the serotonin pathway, and the stimulatory pathways, and the toxic pathway. So really, addiction happens from this. And I want Jillian to really elaborate in her experience about the relationship between food and all these systems.
Well, like I was saying earlier, the food has to have its own energy. And so you have to see food now as soul food that fills up these crown chakras. Remember, it's also the third eye. And the third eye is affected because that's where we get to know our own personal wants and what we need intrinsically for our soul voice. So when you shut all that down, that's why so many addicted people become loners. They're literally separating themselves from the energy of food, the energy of people, and the energy of the source.
You know, when you talk about crown chakra and you talk about third eye, it's really the pineal gland and the hypothalamus, and all the reward system is all connected. So truly, it begins from the heart and the spirit and the mind is following. So we need to really help people to understand that addiction it happens from the beginning, it happens in utero, and parents have obligation to their children by eating the right food, because bad food stimulates production and upregulation of the bad genes that are promoting the addiction. Also, what I want to make sure that they are aware of is the addiction process can be restored by eating the right food, because food works on those reward systems. And if we eat enough proteins, if we have enough amino acids, we can restore all the neurotransmitters. And if we're not able to eat them, and if we now become addicted, then we have an IV therapy program that restores this by giving people the amino acids that are absolutely necessary to restore the spirit and the mind and the body. So here again, I just want this slide. It's a very small slide, but it shows you the stimulation of the receptors of what we call dopamine receptors. And it's hard for people to probably understand this, but I want you to see the difference between this side and that lit side. That shows you how the addiction stimulates those nuclei that are dopamine-related nuclei. And if you look here, you would look like most of these are dormant in healthy people, and they light up during the addiction. So addiction is really a vicious circle, and we have to get that stopped, and we can. And the only way we can get that stopped is to really break the cycle. And we can break the cycle by exercise, healthy food, there's specific food that help people to stop addiction. But when people are already addicts, we need one thing, and one very important thing, and that is for family to recognize the problem, because they got to intervene. And when they intervene, they have to send them to places similar to ours. So it's so important for people to know what resources they have. If they can stop the addiction early on, that's great. If they're vigilant at home to make sure that these things are not happening, that's a great thing. If they have now slipped into addiction, the slippery slope, then they need to get intervention with us in intravenous injection. So thank you again, Jillian, for joining us via Skype. And thank you for the great tips you've given us today. And I hope you all are learning so much more by this format. We love you, and we'll see you after the break.
AwareMed provides a variety of all-natural medicines and cleaners, such as Emerald Serenity Soap. Emerald Serenity Soap works wonders and is a whole mixture of natural propriety minerals and organic ingredients, made to replace all other chemical cleaners and disinfect your home. Max Relief Enzyme Cream soothes the body and the life force. It contains a blend of anti-inflammatory herbs and enzymes with powerful instantaneous relief. GABA Ease is an immediate stress reliever. Its aim is to promote a calm, relaxed, well-balanced emotional and biological state.
Hi, and welcome back to your show, and thank you for joining in today. This was an amazing show about addiction, and I want you to know that we are very grateful to have had Jillian here with us today, and feel free to contact us for all your addiction needs or how to intervene quickly. And information are posted on my website, awaremed.com, on my Facebook, on my Twitter. We're always going to have a lot of information about addiction. We're here to really give you everything you need to know about how we can get you safe out of addiction and safely out of addiction. We are offering you the best treatment program in the nation, that is restoration of neuroendocrine system. This system is restoring spirit, mind, and body, but we give you IV therapy to replace all the missing links, and that is given at AwareMed Health and Wellness Resource Center, 843-213-1480, 4710 Oleander Drive. Thank you so much for the show. I cannot wait to see you next time. And thank you, Jillian, for being part of this show. And we'll see you later next time. Bye.
AwareMed provides a variety of all-natural medicines and cleaners, such as Emerald Serenity Soap. Emerald Serenity Soap works wonders and is a whole mixture of natural propriety minerals and organic ingredients, made to replace all other chemical cleaners and disinfect your home. Max Relief Enzyme Cream soothes the body and the life force. It contains a blend of anti-inflammatory herbs and enzymes with powerful instantaneous relief. GABA Ease is an immediate stress reliever. Its aim is to promote a calm, relaxed, well-balanced emotional and biological state.